This is a real pleasure for me. I've been down to Tuscaloosa probably 10 plus times over the years. One of my favorite parts of being at ESPN, traveling and getting to experience all these different programs over the years. And there's nothing like Alabama. And the new head coach joins us now, Kalen DeBoer. Coach, congrats and thanks for doing this. I want to start with I don't know if you can really share this honesty with us this soon in the interview, but you're really successful. You have this great run with Washington. There has to be this moment of like, whether it's an agent or whether it's somebody from Bama calls you, you're talking to your wife, where you're like, wait, this might be in play. What was that moment like for you?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it was. It was. I knew with the success we had at Washington that any job, you know how it is, people just start throwing out names anytime, and with the success we'd had, that was probably going to be the case as soon as I heard the word that Coach Saban was, retiring, and so you're kind of a little bit prepared for it. But yeah, then the reality of an interview and interest. That's a whole nother world. And that happened really fast. And it was a 24 to 48 hour time frame where there was a lot of conversations and just trying to, I think then trying to have some perspective on understanding, most importantly, is this a great fit? And we can get into that. But Greg Byrne, certainly, our athletic director, showed me, the fit that this was going to be and what it was going to be all about. I believe in his vision, and it really became a no-brainer to come here to Alabama.
Did you think you had it before the interview, or how did that?
No.
Yeah, like tell me
I
about
never
that.
take anything for granted, So, and again, it was, I think, an interview where, of course, they're Greg's finding out about you, and but you're also really trying to make sure that you just don't jump at something because it's Alabama and everything is perceived to be.
What's different now that you're down there and it's been a few months? What's the biggest thing that's different for you now?
Yeah, I think just, there's a lot each and every day that surrounds the program, and there's so many people that are a part of it that want to be a part of it, and having opportunities like this, are just so enjoyable, but take up, quite a bit of the day. But it's fun sharing about, whether it's my journey or our program, the direction we're headed, all of it. It's fun, and it's why I do it. It's to share the experiences that we're having, to share the stories of these guys that I get a chance to coach and work with. It's fun pulling it all together. It's the challenge that I love, is creating this environment, creating this culture that brings all these different people together. And it's a challenge, but it's a lot of fun doing it.
What has Coach Saban told you about the job?
I don't know if he told me specifically. I think, if I anything, I'm probably reading between lines, right? But I did get a chance to speak with him just kind of right around the time when I was offered the opportunity. I reached out to him and, just wanted to have kind of that feeling, that vibe. Not that I was going to ask him if I should take it or if even I was going to get offered it, but, I had never had a chance to talk with him. And I think that alone right there was a cool opportunity. And he's just done it so well at a high level for so many years, not just here, but before that. And I think I understand what the work is that he put into it. You can see it daily with the structure that's within this place, and this, whether it's the facilities and how they were built, the structure of and the people that are in this program. There's just so much thought and so much that was put into it to make it successful.
I'll tell you, throughout my career, he's on a very short list of my favorite people I've ever gotten a chance to talk to, because he'll always make me think about something, or he tells an incredible story, or he'll explain something, and then you're like, wow, okay, maybe I hadn't looked at it. Was there anything that you could actually share with us that maybe you were like, oh, wait, I hadn't thought of that, or that's really interesting?
Yeah, no, I don't think, I didn't look to him that way right away. I think a lot of the questions I had were just, about, maybe things that made the program click. And I know my staff has reached out to him and has asked many of those same questions, whether it's, coordinators or even some staff, some personnel staff. So just the type of players that have been successful over the long haul, how that's changed, just over time. Just defensively, obviously, has been an area where he's just an expert above and beyond. And so there's been times where just trying to get that perspective. I know some of my staff have gotten some good advice from him that way.
I know you'll get sick of those questions as they probably will continue throughout the first year. So
It's all good.
Here's what I love about you, though, is that it's always one of those things, especially in the media side of it. It's like, man, like you want to be the guy that replaces the guy that replaces the guy. I mean, sure, you heard it a million times, and like I just don't think that's how you guys are. And the best of you would never ever think that way. You don't go like, oh well, I don't want to have to follow that. No, I want to take on a challenge. I want to challenge myself, and I want to challenge it at the biggest brand in college football. So
Yeah.
when you're deciding, okay, I've been offered the job, like is there any internal thing that you're taking yourself through, or maybe you share it with your wife, where you're preparing yourself for what this is?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for me was just, it's always family and my wife, and she's been through it all. When I got my first job at the University of Falls, that was right at the time about when we got married. And my kids, I got two daughters. One's a senior in high school, and the other's a middle schooler. But it's just making sure that they're all good with this, because as long as they're happy, that makes it to where I can go to work every day and pour into the program that I'm going to run, being at the place I'm going to be. And they were. They were full support, and so to me, that was the biggest thing. There were some in the professional, area, just that I trust, that I did reach out to, a few here and there, that just to ask them for whether it's advice or just really like, hey, any thoughts on this, and it was overwhelming, just kind of how their perspective was. And with it being Alabama, and then also just knowing some of the people here in this organization, how special it was, and what that mesh could be with me and those people that were already here.
Was your wife with you when you were still pursuing athletics after college?
Pursuing athletics.
Well,
We met, and I was a high school football coach for about a couple weeks, I think it was, maybe even less than that. And all of a sudden, I got my college job, and then, of course, life gets really crazy when you become at the college level. But she stayed with me through and through, so it's been an awesome journey.
I just love that on your resume, because it's funny. We had a life advice email about this guy that was like looking into Italian American football. And I had a buddy who played soccer in Switzerland. I had another buddy that tried, like, after college, it's like, and then you were doing what, independent baseball and arena league stuff. Like, that's just, I love it, man. I love that you were like, hey, I'm not ready to hang him up.
No, I hung on. I hung on for sure. I loved the sports. I loved the relationships, and it just, things kind of fit there for a couple of years right out of college where I could do all of that. And so took advantage of it. And it was kind of right at that time, in 2000, when I met my wife. And yeah, that was kind of when things kind of trickled off from all those extracurricular, football and independent baseball league games that I was enjoying so much.
Yeah, man, grinding. I love it. I love that stuff. Roster management, it is a different challenge now in college football. What is that part of the job like? And ultimately, how much has it changed in such a short amount of time?
Yeah, it's certainly a different landscape than it was just a few years back, and I think, it takes everyone. It takes not just me, but it takes all of our coaching staff. And when I say that, I'm talking about just the relationships and how important they are, the vision that you have for each guy and his role in the team and the value that they can bring. And I think when you really try to keep the main thing about that, I think that's where you get off to a pretty good start. And it's an investment of time, and it's got to be who you are. You gotta enjoy conversations. You got to enjoy helping people. But when those players on our program feel like we really have their best interests involved in all our decisions, and we really want this time frame that they're in during their college football days to be special, To me, when they feel that, and you're open and honest with them, and I think that's key. That's how you do a good job of having the retention. And I'm a believer everywhere I've been, whether it's your staff or your players and your team. You got that retention, that continuity is key. Staffing, I can go on and on about the different places and how that continuity, even just the last couple of years at Washington, and how important that was, to taking the next steps and players deciding to come back instead of entering the draft. That was critical. The talent is one thing, but just that meshing of personalities, that meshing and taking on their roles and understanding it, and then development that comes along with it. Them believing in that, what they're going to get because of the continuity of the staff. It's been a big deal everywhere I've been, and that's going to be important here, especially in this landscape of college football.
This has been an incredible run at the school, and look, this is still even a team with a lot of guys that are on the roster, this close to taking out Michigan in a playoff game that ultimately won the national championship. But how will you handle, I know what you did last year and what you deserve versus open competition for the starting spots?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And I think that, we certainly are always going to be open. And I think saying blank slate, I think is maybe a little bit too much. But, guys do have it come in, and we do have an open mind, I think, because there aren't these preconceived ideas and thoughts. You hear things, and when you're talking to people, whether it's the players and you kind of understand maybe what their role was before, what they're looking for, maybe where guys were a little frustrated. But I think that we've been able to just mesh and pull together the roster, guys. We do have kind of some different breaks at different positions in particular, where there's some older guys, and it's pretty clear and obvious, based on the experiences they've had, where they're at, when it comes to the depth chart. And then there's some gaps where there's some young guys where, they're having to step in roles and getting opportunities that maybe in a lot of the other programs they wouldn't have had. And some of that's due to graduations or the draft. Some of it's due to even guys who left and entered the portal. So, it's again trying to just pull it all together. When you have low egos, and I feel like just our guys really do. Everyone's got an ego, but I feel like there's low egos, and they want what's best for this program, and they want to continue the legacy. They'll take on that role. And then whatever, and then they probably see it too. They know where they fit in just as much as anyone.
You just played for a national championship, so you understand what this means. But I think, and hopefully you'll think this is fair, like you go, okay, I'm at Washington, this is the program we want to build, this is how we want to look on offense, this is how we want to look on defense, this is the likelihood of like the level of player we're getting at the recruiting. How much does what's available to you as far as just talent at Alabama maybe influence how much you would change the way you see how you want to play on Saturdays, how you want to build a roster? Because I do think it's fair to say that at Alabama, it's expected that the incoming talent's at another level.
Yeah. I think everything in the structure of, what we do offensively and defensively. And obviously, I come from an offensive background, but I also was with Kane Womack, who's our defensive coordinator at Indiana. And I understand just the setup and what that looks like there too. But our structure of our, systems allows us to do all the things based on the personnel that come into our program. So, right now, Jalen Milroe is a guy that can do both run and pass. And, his ability to run the football, and be a threat in that way makes our rushing attack even better. And we have great tailbacks, and we need to make sure we're getting the ball distributed to all of our skill players, the receivers, tight ends as well. But here in this league, the physicality that comes along and is critical to winning football games. I don't care if it's the SEC. I don't care what level you're at. It's important. And so his skill set in that way is something that we want to make sure, we build the systems built to be able to work with him and do those things. But we, have a little bit more maybe tendency with game planning and so forth, and how we install in fall camp, to make sure that all that stuff is the things that we're practicing to set ourselves up for success in the fall.
I loved watching you guys last year. And, it's almost like when the Warriors are winning titles and it's like, oh, well, they shoot threes and they do all these things. It's like, yeah, they're also the best defensive team in the NBA. And if
Mm-hmm.
they're not one, they're number two. And there was a flashiness to you with Penix and all the receivers, but there was a toughness, man.
Yeah.
And I remember I was at Ole Miss for the LSU game, and that night I went back to the hotel to watch you play Arizona, and we didn't realize that Jet had turned things around, and their quarterback ended up being terrific. And I'm like, wait, Arizona's in a battle here with Washington. Like, what's going on?
Yeah.
And it's late at night, and then you had all of these tough games. It's really easy to say, hey, I want that culture, I want that toughness, I want to do the same thing, and that's certainly like a standard at Alabama. Like, how is that actually, like, how do you create something like that? Because your team had it last year.
Yeah. One of our things in our program, and it was one of our goals that we have, and you're hitting on it here even this spring. And it's been my thing everywhere I've been. I can go back, 15 years for sure, that I can think of, where, creating an attitude, creating a toughness, creating a family environment. It doesn't happen just by putting in cute pass plays or really awesome blitzes. You got to do those things well. And you got to create this just mentality that exists to be able to win championships. You can win games, but to win championships, it takes another level of just bringing it all together and what you're all about. And the toughness, both mental and physical toughness, is something that just, again, this program's been all about it. It's what's made it what it is. Coach Saban and everyone who's been through here, you can just see it, you can feel it. But that was certainly what the case was there, like you said, in last season. Just the physical toughness. I think that was the thing that I probably, if there was one thing I got frustrated with how we were perceived, it was this physical toughness. Because offensively, you're known as throwing the ball. You can be physically tough. You can fight for extra yards. You can fall ahead. You can hold the line of scrimmage and make big stops on the goal line and short yardage. And I felt like that's what our team did, and they did it in the biggest moments. And so it's a tribute to them on creating an attitude, being able to buy in, and belief and confidence through preparation when it comes to those critical times.
I guess the thing for me, because like I think some people would listen to and be like, hey, well, they've given up a ton of points. And that's not my point. My point was, when I watched you play, I'd be like, okay, this Utah game, every game against Utah is tough. All right, so we can start there. But like the Oregon State game was a tough mental game. The first Oregon game, watching Penix on the sideline being like, no problem, I got this. And it felt real. Oregon in the rematch where Johnson, it felt like anytime they thought they stopped him, it was, nope, it's another 5 yards and I'm going to keep grinding. And he had an incredible game. So yeah, the point that I'm making, and there's not really a question here, it's just that it's not so much in, hey, how many points did you allow? There was this belief and this mental toughness in this team that I thought was really special last year as part of your run. So I don't have a question. So I would just transition to Penix here. What was it like for you to see him? And obviously Rome went 9th, but for Penix to go 8th when you were watching the draft.
Man, I'll just tell you, my heart was just, my everything about that feelings. I was ecstatic. I love the kid. I love everything about him. He's handled everything with such grace through his entire career. But him making the most of these last 2 years, and I always just go back to him, even the decision and the belief that he had in myself when I took the Washington job to get up and go all the way across the country. He's a Florida guy who's living in Indiana, but getting out to Washington, that's a trek. And his family and just their belief in what we were going to do. He was a major part of it, obviously. But I saw that the talent in him, and you could see it, glimpses, and it was just a matter of stringing it together, getting some, again, continuity. And he had a great offseason, a full offseason going into 2022, where that allowed him to just really, be healthy, continue to refine what he was, who he was as a person, through the experiences and the way he led. He just kept growing and growing. And then, you saw what happened this last year, and the team just they already had bought into him, but when he spoke, they all listened, and he's just ready for this moment. I'm fired up about him getting this opportunity, and then people also realizing that he truly is that good. And I stood on the table many times, over the last couple of years about how good he was and the level he could be at. And it was really cool to see here in the last few weeks, a lot of teams, really buying into that and feeling good about, who he was as a person, but even more so what he was as a player.
Your connection to him and then the transfer, the development, I think it's one of the best development success stories for a quarterback and a coach, in a long time, man. And you deserve a lot of credit for that. All right, I'm about to finish up. Two little quick things. I have this Mel Kiper Jr. theory that I've shared with the audience before, and that's, hey, Mel's been doing the draft 40 years. When he goes to get produce, there's probably somebody who comes up to him at the grocery store and says, I can't believe you like this receiver more than that receiver. And that's Mel Kiper Jr.'s life. Like every day he's out in the public. For you, it's going to be similar, but a whole nother level, because this is the most important thing in the world for people down in Alabama. I guess it's probably already happened because you've been there a few months. What is that like? Almost feeling like this elected official of the state because you're the head coach of the Crimson Tide.
Yeah, it's an honor. It's an honor for sure. And, it's fun seeing the support. It's fun, right now in May, for example, about every night, 3 to 4 times a week, you get a chance to get out and it's seeing the excitement around this program and what it's built up to be. It's a pleasure to be around all these people. And, the spring game was a great example, 72,000 people there celebrating our team, celebrating this program. I can go on, but, it's certainly, and again, those were things that I kind of had a heads up on to really, truly make sure I understood coming here. And when my family and I landed on in Tuscaloosa that night, and I felt like thousands of people, there to celebrate, this opportunity. Man, you realize, what football means to the state of Alabama, what this program means, and how it's such a great uniting piece that just brings everyone together, not just on Saturdays, but year round.
I'm getting fired up for you, man. And look, I know there's a lot going on game day, and certainly the Georgia atmosphere, the end of September will be a little different, but the home opener against Western Kentucky, I just hope you have a moment to take in Sweet Home Alabama, look around, and like, I have nothing to do with the school, and I get the chills whenever I'm on the sideline seeing it just go off there. So it's just an incredible journey for you. And anybody that's put the work in is looking forward to seeing what this season is like. So thanks so much for the time, Coach.
Yeah, thank you for having me on. Roll Tide.